everyone. Today we're going to talk about measuring to the nearest 1/4 of an inch. Check out this ruler. It should look somewhat familiar because I know most of you have seen a ruler before, especially the long wooden rulers. There are many different types of rulers. There are the long wooden rulers. In school, we've been introduced to the short white paper ruler, which typically we use in the springtime when we take the PSSA test. There are also rulers such as this one that are online that we can use on websites. And then there are rulers that are often used when we are crafting you may have seen your parents use them when you are using a toolbox, like a measuring tape type of ruler. No matter the type of ruler you're using, measurements are the same. And I'm going to show you a short video, and then we're going to do a few examples together and see if we can find the nearest 1/4 inch and even maybe the nearest 1/2 of an inch. I know we've been doing some of that and making some line plots after last week in Mr. Spooty's video. So we're going to practice the 1/4 inch and maybe even sneak in a few 1/2 inches. Let's check out this video.
Learn to measure to the 1/2 and 1/4 inch. Let's go. In our lesson so far, we've been measuring the lengths and heights of objects to the whole inch. Let's take a look at this red line. How long is it? We can see that it lines up with 7 inches. In fact, it lines up perfectly with 7 inches. This means that the line is 7 whole inches. But what if it wasn't lined up perfectly with 7 inches? What if instead our red line ended somewhere between 7 inches and 8 inches? In this lesson, we're going to learn how to measure things that are between whole inches. Let's start with inches. I've zoomed way in on our ruler here, so we only see the first 3 inches. Let's talk about what an inch is. This blue rectangle is 1 whole inch. In the United States, an inch is the smallest unit of measurement for length and height. But we know that there could be a rectangle that is smaller than 1 whole inch. Like this red rectangle. If we want to measure something that is smaller than an inch, we have to divide the inch into parts. Let's use our blue rectangle to help us see. Remember, we measured our blue rectangle to be exactly 1 whole inch. Now, if we draw a line right down the middle of our rectangle, what do we get? Well, now we have 2 rectangles that are each 1/2 an inch. So we see that we can divide an inch into 2 parts that each equal 1/2 an inch. Now, what if we draw a line right down the middle of both of the 1/2 rectangles? Now we have 4 rectangles. Now, using what we know about fractions, if we take one thing and divide it into 4 parts, each part is 1/4. This shows us that we can divide 1 whole inch into 4 parts, and each part will be 1/4, or 1/4 of an inch. Now let's take a look at the ruler again. Do you notice anything about the marks on the ruler? Yeah, these big lines here represent a whole inch. And then we see these 3 smaller lines in between. What do you think that this longer line in the middle represents? Well, if we compare the distance from the taller middle line to the whole inch lines, it appears to be right in the middle. So this is the 1/2 inch mark. And these shorter lines are cutting halfway between the 1/2 inch mark. So they must be the 1/4 inch marks. Let's zoom in now between the 1 and 2 inch marks and do a quick fraction review. Remember, each of these distances is 1/4. So if we're going to count them, we would have 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, before we would come to the next whole number. And we can simplify 2/4 to what? Yeah, that's right, a half. Now that we know how to divide an inch into parts, let's measure the length of this green line. So if it starts here at the edge of the inch mark, and it goes 1/4, a half, 3/4 across the inch, this green line is 3/4 of an inch. Let's do a few examples now without our extra markings. What is the length of this rectangle? It starts at 0 and it goes past the 3 whole inch mark, but by how much? Well, let's count. We have 3 1/4, 3 2/4, and 3 2/4 is the same as 3 1/2. So this rectangle is 3 1/2 inches long. How about this one? It's longer than the 4 whole inch mark and goes to the first marker, which we know is 1/4. So this rectangle is 4 1/4 inches long.
Do you notice that she said 1/4? And I know she's not talking about money. She's talking about the 1/4 inch. So I now know a new vocabulary word. 1/4 is also called a quarter, meaning 4 parts. So 1/4 is a quarter, 2/4 is 2/4, 3/4 is 3/4. And I know 4/4 could be 4/4 or 1 whole. So keep that in mind as you're going along, or if you're watching a video or some type of tutorial. If they say 1/4 and we're talking about measurement, they're not talking about an actual coin. They're talking about 1/4. So let's do some examples of our own. So the nearest 1/4 inch example, number 1, check out this crayon here. They have the bar here to show you the measurement. The end of the crayon, notice it starts at 0, and if I travel down here, the tip of the crayon is the next end. And I posted some arrows here, just like in the example in the video. If I start at 0, notice it goes well past the 1 inch marking. Does it go past the 2 inch marking? It definitely does, but I notice that it does not go past the 3 inch marking. So I need to know here, if I look, it doesn't go past the 3, but it does go past the 2. So it has to be somewhere in between. So I'm going to take a peek here at these 3 arrows. And I need to look at those longest markings in between. Do you see where my arrows are? They're the longest markings in between. And I know if I can take a hop to this longest marking here, that's the 1/4 mark or the 1/4. The next one is the 2/4 mark, which she told us is equal to 1/2, because if I cut it right here, do you notice it's halfway between 2 and 3? And if I hop one more time to that next longest mark, that would be the 3/4 mark or the 3/4 mark. Which is the tip of the crayon at? Is it 1/4, 1/2, or 3/4? It's at 3/4, isn't it? But it's not just 3/4. Remember, I passed the 2 whole inch mark, so it has to be 2 and 3/4. I can't forget that I passed 2 whole inches, so it's 2 whole inches and 3/4. So what I always like to tell my math group, you notice I have my text box down here. It's almost like my piece of paper. Once I pass the 2 whole inch mark, I'd like to write 2 down. I don't ever want to forget it. So I always pass the whole inch mark. I write it down. And then what's the extras that I get to add on? It's that 3/4. So it's 2 3/4, and then I know my inches I have to label, and we're measuring in inches, so I'm going to write inches. So 2 3/4 inches. We always want to make sure we label because I'm not measuring in boogers or chicken butts, or we're going to learn about centimeters, and we're not learning feet right now. So I want to make sure we're labeling in inches, and I know that because it's right here. Let's try another. How about this thumbtack? You know, we use thumbtacks to push in the bulletin boards. So I'm starting at 0 just like before, and I need to see, did I pass any whole inch mark? Oh, the very first one is way up here. So did I even pass a whole inch mark yet? No. So do I have anything to put in my text box like we did before? No. So here I go. I put the arrows here for you. The very first long mark, remember, is 1/4 or a quarter. 1/4, 2/4, which is equal to 1/2. Remember, if I slice this, it would be 1/2. And then so 1/4, 1/2, 3/4. Where is that closest to? Is it closest to 1/4, 1/2, or 3/4? I hope you said 3/4. And down here in my text box, all I have to do is write 3/4, right? Because there's no whole number that I passed. And what should I label my answer at? What are we measuring in? Feet? Centimeter? Inches? Dog poop piles? You're right. It's inches. Fantastic. I have one more for us. Oh my goodness, look at this one. It has 3 on there for us. Do you notice that it's in different areas of the ruler? Sometimes we're going to have this. This one's a little tricky. So check out D. Do you notice that? It's labeled D. So we're going to measure part D. It starts between 3 and 4. Does that mean it's a whole 3 and 4 inches? It does not. Check this out. It starts at 3 and it ends at 4. It doesn't mean that it's 3 and 4 inches. If it starts at 3 and it ends at 4, that only means it's 1 inch, because if I start at 3 and end at 4, do you notice I'm only counting one number, or 1 inch? So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to type in 1. That's only a difference of one number, correct? If I start with 4 and I subtract 3, isn't that only a difference of 1? They're trying to trick you here. So isn't that crazy? So that is 1 inch. 1 inch. So let's come up here to letter E. They're doing the same thing. Look here, I'm starting at 5. I travel up to 6. That's 1 whole inch, isn't it? Do I get the whole way to 7? I do not. I know I got the whole way to 6, remember? That is 1 whole inch. I'm going to put that up there so I don't forget. Now I need to start at 6 and see how much further I get. Remember those extras I told you? So I need to go 1/4, 1/2, 3/4. 1/4, 1/2, 3/4. Do you notice I get to where? 3/4. So I have 1 whole inch, right? I'm going to add 3/4, and I know I'm still in inches, right? 1 3/4 inches. So I traveled from 5 to 6. That gives me 1 whole inch, and my extras are right here in 3/4 inches. So why isn't that, look, 6 3/4 inches. Well, do you notice I didn't travel up my whole entire ruler? It's only a section of the ruler. They didn't even start until 5. That's how they're trying to trick you. So let's look at letter F. Where does letter F begin or start? Look at where it begins. It doesn't begin until number 8, not all the way down there at 0. It doesn't begin until number 8. Look where it stops, right at the very first line. Remember when we count 1/4, 1/2, 3/4. What's the very first line you see? What did I say? 1/4. It's the tiniest little line. So what do we label that? We label it 1/4 inch. Good job. 1/4 inch. And that's why it is not super big, because they're trying to trick you. It starts at number 8. It doesn't start at 0 and stop way up here. It didn't even start until number 8, and that's why it is not very long. You will see some of these types of examples. Don't let it trick you that it didn't start until a large number. You're going to start here almost like it is at 0 and start counting. So 1 inch and then add it on. Don't let it trick you.